Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Hannah and on this channel I post a lot of anti-MLM content. I'm gonna link a playlist right here and down below. This is my big anti-MLM playlist. There is 90 videos on it at this point, and that number increases every single week. So if any of that kind of content does sound interesting to you, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, consider liking this video. All those things really help to support my channel and I appreciate you so much for doing that. Today I'm bringing you another MLM horror stories video. These are your own personal experiences that you have written out and sent to me. My email is up to 300 horror stories. I don't even know what to do with that number anymore. I filmed a horror stories video 3 days ago. In that video, I had just over 200 stories, and now I have over 300 stories. I love it. I appreciate it. I will get through them someday, somehow. And on that note, I did ask for feedback in the previous video if people want me to make longer horror stories. Because trust me, I am not lacking any content. I am not lacking stories. So I think for now, I'm just gonna do my best to include more stories, maybe make these videos more frequent. The feedback seemed to be really in support of that. And as always, do not let that staggering number be a deterrent for you regarding sending in your own story to me. I save it, I put it in a folder, it is safe. I will get there one day. But let's not waste any more time. I have 7 stories that I pulled today, so let's get into it. This story has a title at the top. It says Stolen Money and Burnt Bridges. This is a rather long story because it's 2 different stories that intertwine together. I got burned twice within the same company. I hope you'll take the time to read it. I love your channel. Thank you for doing what you do to bring awareness to the wild MLM world. In 2014, places known as nutrition clubs started popping up all over our state. If you ever see the term nutrition club, that's a code word for Herbalife store. They had fun names and promoted shakes and teas that helped you lose weight. This appealed to me at the time because I was postpartum from my son and addicted to energy drinks. I started going in and out of a club nearby and was actually losing weight. I was happy. It was shortly after that I found out these were Herbalife products. I loved the girls in the nutrition club that I had been going in and out of. I became fast friends with the owner. We will call her Eve. Eve had kids of her own and appeared to be a very hardworking mom. She was kind and very inspiring to me as she had lost over 100 pounds on the products. After I had lost some weight, she convinced me to sign up as a distributor. It wasn't until I got closer to her that I found out she actually had weight loss surgery. I told her whenever I signed up that I would enjoy making some money on the side, but I didn't think I would ever be able to give up my full-time job. She said she understood. As time went on, our friendship continued to grow. We became very close, so I was always venting to her about my current job and how unhappy I was. Eventually, with much persuasion, she made me an offer that I didn't want to refuse. She told me that if I started working in the club full-time and quit my job, she would pay me cash weekly to work in the club. It seemed like a good opportunity at the time because she told me she was grooming me to take over the club completely. I saw this lavish lifestyle that she lived and thought if this club is to become mine, then we will finally be financially stable because I saw how stable she seemed to be. Little did I know, she was in mountains of debt. Everybody who was working in the club with her before moved over to the new building to help her with the remodel, but once it was open, everyone only wanted to work at that club and left me with no help. Something that I'm wondering about and that I really should do more research on is these nutrition clubs and how they masquerade as legitimate businesses. I would be curious to know if the people who open these locations are required to have any kind of license or just what the general regulations are around doing that kind of thing, because the way it appears to me, all you really have to be is an Herbalife consultant. You sign up for this MLM just like you would for any other MLM, but Herbalife, they really focus heavily on opening up your own storefront and selling the products to customers face to face. I don't pre-read these stories, so I didn't have a chance to kind of do some digging on that beforehand, but you just bringing up right now that this woman opened up this club and now she's hiring you and she's saying that she's paying you cash, that signals to me that she's not really a business owner and she's not an employer. And I'm sure that's a complete legal mess as far as like hiring people to work in your store, but also they're not legally your employees and you're just kind of paying them under the table in cash. I don't know. It just sounds like a very sketchy, sticky situation. I was working 12 to 14 hours a day by myself. Keep in mind, I also had a son that was roughly 1 year old by that time, whom I was now missing out on a lot with. When I would open up to her, she would just keep telling me to stay strong and it was going to pay pay off. And I needed to get more people interested in the business to work in the club with me. I would argue, if I don't have time to leave the club to do invites, how do I get more people in? As time went on, my family was financially struggling worse than before. I became very stressed and started toying with the idea of going back to the normal work field so that I could have the health benefits and a steady paycheck. I had multiple conversations with her about this, and it was always the same response. You're a boss, babe. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's no regulations over you staying at the club 12 to 14 hours a day. There's no benefits. There's no regulation over your paycheck. Like alarm bells. Alarm, alarm, alarm. Not good. Run away. An important part of this story that you should know is that she had a borrowing system set up within the club for her downline and retail clients. Essentially, we would stock the club with enough product to run the club and then some. Our downline and clients would go ahead and purchase the product on their account and have it shipped to the club. Then they could take from the closet simply by signing a sheet saying what they took. She was even placing the club orders underneath me and my downline so that we could get more volume points and get paid. This is a policy now, but back then it was simply frowned upon. Since I was technically running the club, it was something we kind of got away with at the time. Even that sounds sketchy, because let's not forget, just because you have a physical brick and mortar store, clients that are physically coming up to you and ordering certain products, we have to remember that it's still an MLM, and you still have quotas, and you still have monthly PV requirements and all that stuff on top of it. Fast forward to me finally making the decision to leave. I decided it was time for me to go back to doing the business part-time. I worked really hard and extremely long hours. I really tried, but it wasn't paying off. I decided it was time to have the conversation with her. I told her I could no longer run the club alone, but that I could still work in the club on the weekends. She became infuriated. She went off on me. She told me to get out of her club immediately and that she never wanted to see me again. She even sent one of her minions over within the hour to kick me out of the club, change the locks and alarm codes, and told me to turn in my keys. She then went to the entire Herbalife community spreading lies about me. She told everyone that I had stolen product from her within her borrowing system, so she had to kick me out. I ended up having to exit the business because she had tarnished my reputation to everyone, but that's not all. There's more. This is an example of the excommunication that someone goes through when they decide to leave their MLM. And in your case, you weren't even deciding to leave. You were just saying, hey, I'm going to cut back a little bit. I'll be here on the weekends. I can't work here full time anymore. It's not lucrative. And even that was enough to trigger this kind of excommunication response of like tarnishing your reputation, cutting you off, physically preventing you from being a part of it any longer. I'm really sorry that that happened to you, but that's a very common experience, because as soon as the people in your upline don't see you as a profitable person anymore, they don't see you as an asset that is going to serve them with anything, you're cut off, you're dead to them, you have no use for them anymore. And that feeling of excommunication and uselessness really takes a toll on people's emotions. Fast forward to 2019, one of my very best friends who I'd actually known for a long time was also doing the business. She signed up at the same time I did, but she had signed up under somebody else. We will call my friend Jennifer, and we'll call her upline Patricia. I started going to Patricia's club. I told her the whole story of what happened to me, and she was so saddened. This sounds like Patricia's about to recruit you. That's my prediction. Jennifer was my best friend at the time. She invited me to go to a convention with her, and I accepted. After the annual brainwashing, we had this idea that we could become a power team if I got back into the business, but this time under her. Interesting. Now, there was two ways to do this back then. A, contact corporate and place your account in an inactive status. It had to stay inactive for 1 full year, and then you could re-sign up under someone else. Or B, go through your current upline roughly 3 levels above them and try to convince each person why they should let you change and sign a piece of paper. I knew that would never work, so I decided to let my account go inactive, and then I would sign up underneath my best friend and we would become a power team. We did just that. We hit the business hard. Patricia told us that she wanted to groom us to take over her club, which was attached to a gym. It was perfect. We were doing so well. I was actually making more money this go round. This time I was crystal clear I wouldn't be quitting my job, and they were supportive. Jennifer and I decided we wanted to do a fitness challenge. The way these challenges usually work is you pay an entry fee and it's collected for the pot. At the end, usually 1 or 3 people win money and the organizers take a cut as well. We had tons of people that signed up and had quite a big pot. We had a huge convention coming up that year, and the entry fees to the convention are usually between $100 and $200. I never saw my cut from the challenge. When I asked Jennifer about it, she told me that she went ahead and used my cut from the challenge to purchase purchase all of my tickets and fees for the convention. She also told me that she had already organized out the first, second, and third place winners' cuts. Right before the convention, we would announce the winners, but unfortunately, these people would not see this money for quite some time. After the challenge closed and the winners were announced, the winners started contacting Jennifer and I to claim their winnings. But Jennifer wasn't answering because she was on a trip and she was holding all the money. People started getting suspicious. To protect our reputation and calm nerves, Patricia was able to get information from Jennifer on what the payouts were, and she paid out the winners from her own pocket and told Jennifer she could pay her back since she was out of town. To my belief, the winners never got the full amount. I never actually saw how much money was in the whole pot, but after some basic calculations, we all believed we got stiffed. Regardless, they had some money and all was fine and settled, kind of. A couple weeks later, it was time for the convention trip. I was supposed to ride with Jennifer. The days went on and her messages grew further and further apart. I was trying to make plans and she was not committing. 2 days prior, she swore to me that we were still going to have a rental car and ride down together. The night before, I had not heard from her or any commitments on a plan. I contacted Patricia to let her know that I had no idea if I was even going to have a ride in the morning. The morning came, no word from Jennifer. I called Patricia and told her I did not have a ride and that Jennifer was no longer answering any of my phone calls or messages. Patricia came and picked me up and I rode down with Patricia. I texted Jennifer to let her know. She finally messaged me back and said that she was going through some personal things, but that she would be there later on that day. She never showed. The day of the convention came, and as it turns out, there was never any tickets purchased for me. I took off work for an entire week, left my family, saved money, rode 12 hours away, and had no ticket. Did she not tell you that she used your money from the challenge to buy you a ticket? Oh my, I would be so mad. That's a huge commitment that you have taken time out of your life to go and do. And imagine showing up and not being able to get in. Fuming. I would be so mad. The entire trip, rumors and word was spreading about what had happened with the challenge and how shady things were. This was the last thing I wanted. To yet again have trusted someone only to have my reputation stomped on and to have Patricia's reputation tarnished when she had been so good to us. Patricia and I sat down and discussed the entire buildup of the last 3 months. We came to the conclusion that we had all been swindled and that it was very likely Jennifer spent all of the money from the challenge. At this point, Jennifer owes Patricia money for what she paid out the winners and the Airbnb room for the trip. She owes me money for my cut. She also owes everyone an explanation. Yeah, she has a lot of people to pay back, let's just put it that way. When we returned, I still tried to contact Jennifer, but she would not respond. When she finally reached out, all she would say is that she was going through something that she was not in a good mental space to discuss. I advised her that I would give her some time, but that people also deserved an explanation. If she wasn't going to give that, she at least needed to pay Patricia and give her an explanation. Months later, Patricia stated that she finally got some of her money back via a random virtual transfer. Patricia and Jennifer had not come around the club, nor was she answering any of her calls or messages. I told Patricia that it was time for my final exit. I had been burned entirely too many times, and although I trusted and appreciated her, I couldn't do it anymore. She understood because this time it was my best friend of many years. I still have a lot of respect for Patricia, but in the whole grand scheme of things, pun intended, she's probably the only person I ever met in my entire experience that I actually trusted. Wow. This was a long story, but it was beautifully written. Thank you for that. My follow-up question is, what happened to Jennifer? She was your friend before Herbalife ever intervened. Have you talked to her since? Did she just disappear off the face of the planet with everybody's money and never return to the business again? Because if that's the case, I mean, I wonder if that was kind of the master plan all along. Host this challenge, get the pot of money, and run away with it. That's absolutely insane, and she hurt a lot of people in the process. I think it just goes to show that in MLMs, it's full of shady business practices, and people get very creative on how they're going to manipulate others. Because in these schemes where money is pretty hard to come by, nobody's really given what they thought they would get or what they felt they were promised. And what results from that is a whole bunch of super shady workaround loopholes, manipulating people, stealing from people, lying to people. And I'm really sorry that you kind of had to be wrapped up as a victim in that entire situation. Thank you for sending this in. Like I said, beautifully written story, extremely easy for me to read, and a very powerful message as well. This story says, "Hi Hannah, please keep my name anonymous. I love your channel and some of the stories really inspired me to send in my own. The story I'm about to tell you almost costed my life. Massive trigger warning. Ever since I was young, my mom always bought things from MLMs, from Tupperware, Party Light, doTERRA, Mary Kay, Lip Sense, and Labrie, a skincare company. So growing up with this, it was very normalized for me. At the age of 10, my entire world got turned upside down and I got diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I got put on medication and put into therapy right away. A couple years later, my mom was pulled into the doTERRA life and became overly obsessed with it. I'm really afraid that I know exactly where this is going. I started to struggle so badly with my depression that my mother decided to take me off of my medicine and take me out of therapy because she found the cure to all of my problems. No. She took out her doTERRA spiral reference guide and did some research for depression. She started putting oils in my food, drink, skin, hair, basically everywhere. She would make these depression blends from her doTERRA oils. I can't even read that. Oh, that's infuriating. Oh my gosh, okay. And tell me that I'm going to be cured. She was my mom and I trusted her with my life. I mean, she was my mom. This is exactly the dangerous territory that we get into with MLM products. Let me make it very clear that MLM companies are cults. There is too much evidence, there are too many connections, there are too many parallels to be able to deny that fact. And I want to make that point because no loving mother would take their child out of therapy, would take their child off of their medication, and start believing that this miracle oil has all of the powers to cure them unless that mother was under the influence of a cult and brainwashing tactics. Please know that I don't mean to parent shame right now. I'm not trying to pass any judgments on your mom. I'm just trying to make it very clear that she is experiencing undue influence of this organization, of this company that is leading her to believe that these products have the power to cure. It's important to recognize that within the context of the company, of the cult. Because I would dare to say that if a parent went to a small boutique and they saw a cute little display of oils and they picked one up because it smelled good, they would not just inherently believe this is a magical oil that is going to cure my child of these mental health conditions. It's probably fair to say that no person would make that connection between this product and this kind of cure unless there was an entire organization and an entire discussion and rhetoric and language and brainwashing around how these products can be linked to that kind of health claim. And I really hope that I'm making myself clear with this right now, that I'm not placing any blame on the people that are in these companies because they are experiencing undue influence and they are doing things against their better judgment that they would never otherwise do if they were not under the mind control tactics of these MLM companies. One day she invited me to go over to one of her close friends' house to have some dinner and to talk to her friend that also struggled with depression. My 16-year-old brain thought, oh my gosh, yes, I have someone to talk to. I was obviously very naive because when we got there, I quickly found out that it was a doTERRA party and I was the center of it. She had me sit in the middle of the entire living room, and the doTERRA rep, whom I've never met before, started to tell all of these people who I didn't even know besides my mom's friend about my depression and why I was diagnosed. She told a very sensitive story that nobody but my family and a very close friend knew about, and used that as a segue on how her oils could cure everything. My mom spoke up and said how these oils saved my life and how I'm not depressed anymore and my trauma has just gone away. That is horrifying and a completely unfounded health claim. All I remember was my ears ringing and tears running down my face. How could my own mother tell a complete stranger that telling my trauma in front of 10 strangers was okay just to sell her oils? I never understood why I deserved that. At the time, I was only 16, coming out of an abusive, in every way, relationship. My mom started to push me to sell the oils with her and be the face of doTERRA oils because they cured me. I kept saying no because most days I couldn't even get out of bed to go to school. Plus, why would I use my trauma to rope people into this awful business? I mean, it almost cost me my life. I would use the oils religiously and start breaking out in hives and having very dry skin. I couldn't even look in the mirror. My mom told me that I had to let the oils do God's work. And the reason why this was happening was because I never did anything and never got out of bed. I'm sorry, but she's claiming in front of people that these oils have cured your depression, yet she's also acknowledging that you can't get out of bed and you're not in a good enough mental state to be able to do anything. Those are two polar opposite narratives. And that's signaling to me that she's saying what people want to hear when it comes to promoting the products and when it comes to selling. But behind closed doors, she's somewhat acknowledging that you're not okay. A couple months after oh God, I'm reading ahead. Trigger warning right here for sensitive topics regarding depression and unaliving oneself. A couple months after the doTERRA party, I attempted to take my own life 3 separate times because I wasn't getting the right treatment, but according to my mom, God sent me these oils and they will cure me. This is the best choice for me. I ended up leaving my mom's house and went to live with my dad and was finally able to get the right treatment. I am much healthier and loving life now. I'm very sorry that I trauma dumped on you, but I just want to spread awareness to show how dangerous these MLMs are and can be. It almost cost me my life and it ruined a relationship with my mom. Thank you for all you do and spreading the word on how vicious these people and businesses can be. And thank you for having the strength to write this story. This is a really heavy one. This is one of the more troubling stories that I've ever read. And just to reiterate myself, I hope that you can understand the context, the influence under which your mom is acting. This is completely unacceptable behavior, but I hope that we can understand that these companies are cults. And with that understanding, it gives a little bit more context for why she's doing the things she's doing. And the biggest thing I have to say is thank God you're still here. I'm so unbelievably sorry that your own mother put you in this situation and that for a period of time you were not getting the help that you desperately needed. And I'm relieved to hear that now you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sending in this story. It's an extremely important one that people need to hear. This next story, the subject line says MLM horror story, inside a narcissist climb to the top. Hey Hannah, I've been binging your anti-MLM videos and loving them. Please keep up this important work. I have an inside perspective from watching my mother climb her way to the top of Liberty League International, an MLM from the early 2000s that only sold tickets to conferences and personal development programs. These conferences cost over $20,000 altogether, and you were expected to pay. The only way to get out of paying yourself was to sell the conferences to 5 other people. Wait, so the product of this MLM is the conference. That is crazy. I've never heard of this one before. I mean, that's like the most brainwashy MLM of them all. How could it not be? The product that you're promoting and selling is the super brainwashy and culty conferences. Crazy. This is a vicious cycle and the company oozed toxic positivity. I can only imagine. If you watch the LuLaRich documentary, the conferences were very flashy and extravagant like theirs, but Liberty League didn't even sell a tangible product. You just had to take part in self-development programs, which were essentially brainwashing materials to make you want to sell conference tickets to conferences that tell you to sell harder. Even as a kid, I could tell something was wrong. Yeah, this does not feel right in my gut, okay? This has gotta be a pyramid scheme. I hope that you're gonna tell me later that it was like shut down for that or something. My mom has narcissistic personality disorder. She will step on anyone to pull herself up to the next level, which is why she absolutely thrived in MLMs. She joined Liberty League because they do not do background checks and she is a convicted felon for grand theft, ironically, which made it hard to find a more traditional job. I believe she worked her way up to the top of Liberty League in less than a year. She can be very charismatic and charming, so she was able to convince hundreds, if not thousands of people to join. Her big sales pitch was that she was a struggling single mom trying to make ends meet, so she joined Liberty League and now she's rich and gets to stay home and be present with her wonderful kids who she loves so much and blah, blah, blah. The reality behind closed doors could not have been further from the truth. I hardly ever saw my mom. She slept in until after I got myself to school, this was in elementary school, and stayed in her office yelling on conference calls about working your ass off to be successful until after I went to sleep. She made a lot of money, but her spending habits were so out of control that I have no idea where the money went. She was verbally, emotionally, and physically abusive. You're bringing up something that I've often wondered about before, because let me tell you, I watch a lot of Zoom calls. I watch a lot of training calls. I'm given access to them. I sneak into them. These calls always take place in the evenings when I would imagine that parents on these calls would normally be trying to make dinner, spend some time with their kids, get their kids ready for bed. Presumably, if you're a parent with school-age children, they're at school all day, and then when they are at home, you have your head in a Zoom call, and if you're one of the top people in that company or on that team who are leading the Zoom call, then your kid hears you from the other room yelling at people and spewing all this like toxic positivity garbage. And I've always wondered the effects that has on the children in that family. I'm super fascinated by child development and child psychology, and I can just imagine that that would have some kind of impact on a child's idea of what working hard looks like, or what is required of you to make money, or the parameters of what a typical mother to child relationship is. All of those things I'm sure have to be impacted in one way or another, so thank you for bringing this up. It's very fascinating. After she made it to the top, they sent a camera crew to come and film us as a family for a couple of days. This was to make some sort of presentation about how amazing our lives were. I remember they had my brother and I come into the living room and play a board game with my mom. I asked why, and she said something along the lines of to show everyone how we are as a family. I replied that we never do anything together, and there was an awkward silence. That night after dark, we went to a mansion that was for sale and filmed some more there. Looking back, it must have been illegal for us to do that, or we wouldn't have waited until nighttime to go film in an empty house. They were trying to make it look like we were either buying that house or that we already lived there, neither of which was true. That is insane. I'm thinking about other promo videos that other MLM companies will do with their top leaders. I focus on Monat a lot on this channel, and Monat literally has a series on their YouTube channel called My Day with Monat, where they follow around all the top income earners. They make these little mini documentaries out of them, and they put them out there for other people in the company to idolize, and it's very creepy. My mom also got a leased Jaguar to drive around to appear rich. She had 2 kids, and the car only had 2 seats, the driver's seat and the passenger seat. Not exactly functional for a single mother of 2, but at the top of an MLM, image is everything, and the images are fake. Beautifully written sentence. Love that. Liberty League was halted by a class action lawsuit, I believe in 2009. Love to hear it. She told me she left because the founders joined Scientology, and I haven't bothered to look up whether or not that's true. I wouldn't put it past them, okay? One cult to another. I think she just doesn't want to admit that she was instrumental in screwing thousands of families out of their hard-earned money. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that MLMs work wonderfully if you are a ruthless individual who does not care about others and will do anything to get ahead. I believe anyone who has a conscience will step away from MLMs eventually, especially if they are in the top 1%. They know exactly what they are doing up there at the top. Yeah, Zeke, they know what they're doing, huh? Then you included a link about their class action lawsuit. I will link that below. Keep making great content. This is a very powerful and unique story. Even though it's not your experience, even though you weren't the person in the MLM, you are providing some kind of representation for what it must be like to be the child of somebody in an MLM. And to go one step beyond that, the child of someone at the top of an MLM. I love stories like this because they really make me think and to look at things from a variety of different perspectives of all the different people involved, and so thank you for that. This story says, just wanted to start off by saying I've been binge watching your videos and it's been very eye-opening, so thank you for that. I did not even know what MLMs were for a very long time and had no idea I had come into contact with any of them until just a couple years ago, and when I learned what they were in some companies that were considered MLMs, I realized just how many I've seen over the years. I have a couple stories, I'll try to keep them short, but to name a few of them, Love Winks, Sensi, Pink Zebra, Monat, It Works, Beachbody, Thrive, Tupperware, Pharmacy, and I'm sure a bunch more that I can't think of right now. Hi, honey. Oh my goodness, I hope the mic picked up his little squeak. Anyhow, let me get into the first story. So the first story is from Monat. Isn't it all of our favorites? So my friend that I was living with at the time was telling me one day about this new job opportunity that she had been given, and she was telling me how she could make tons of money, get a car, free trips, you know the rest. And at this point, I wasn't really aware of what an MLM was, and it sounded amazing just how they intend for it to. Anyway, for the first while, she was really going all in. She was selling saying, mind you, mostly to her family members. She was trying for so long to get me to buy it, and I wanted to support my friend. However, you can imagine my horror when I saw that one shampoo bottle costed $60+. I was holding off and making excuses, and one day she gave me a sample bottle, so I was like, okay, it's free, I'll try. Girl, when I tell you that shampoo had my hair coming out in clumps after one use, not to mention how absolutely greasy my hair was after using it, I let her know it didn't work for me, and she told me I needed to use a dime size amount, which for anyone with thick hair, you know a dime size barely covers a strand of hair. We never really spoke about it much after that. I helped her take some before and after pictures of herself, and needless to say, I never used that shampoo again. I think I actually still have it sitting in storage somewhere, and I believe she is no longer really selling it. It really frustrates me with Monat reps especially. They love to seem to do this, where if you have a complaint about the product or you're saying, hey, it didn't really work for me, they blame you and the way that you used it. So in this case, she's like, oh, well, you can't use that much. It's almost like they will never admit that certain products just don't work for certain hair types and textures. That's fine, that's normal. I've tried plenty of shampoos that don't agree with my hair, and it's no big deal. I just go and find a different shampoo. But it's like the end of the world when you tell a Monat rep that you didn't like their shampoo. And it must be your fault because you just don't know how to shampoo your hair, apparently. My next story is my own experience with the infamous It Works, or as I like to call it, It Sucks. I'm embarrassed to say at this point I sort of knew what an MLM was, but I joined anyway due to financial struggles and a major push from the girl who was trying to recruit me. So I think it was a post on one of my friend's Facebook pages saying something like, who wants longer hair? Comment the length you want and my friend will help. That's a very odd call to action. Who wants their hair to grow? Let me know. I commented mainly just for fun, but then I get a message, and for privacy we will call her Sarah. Sarah had messaged me the usual Hun speech, hey girl, I saw your comment, would you be interested in signing up? And at first I did say no because I didn't have $100 to get a starter pack. But after a while she sucked me in and I bought it and I started posting. I was so embarrassed to do these cold messages and posts, I barely did them. She would message me pre-written posts and messages to send to people. Nobody was interested. Of course not. Although I managed to get my grandma to buy some products which I felt badly about, and she couldn't even use them because in the fine print it says not safe for diabetics. Please make that a warning because I would hate for people who are diabetic to be blindly trying these things. Okay, here's your warning. Apparently, some It Works products are not safe to take if you have diabetes, okay? Note taken. But also, here's my little 2 cents about that. Is this not a prime example on how people who join supplement MLMs or health and wellness MLMs are not qualified to be prescribing, for lack of a better term, certain supplements to certain people? In this case, it was you that sold the product, but you were new to the company. Product knowledge, product training probably wasn't a thing. You weren't aware. It was a genuine mistake. There's no malicious intent behind selling your grandma something that is going to interact with her already existing health condition, but that's kind of the entire issue, right? People in MLMs are not properly trained to be selling what they're selling, and that could have really dire consequences for people. Anyway, she canceled her auto shipments and she was mad at me for a while, rightfully so. I had sold product and then payday came around. I never got anything and I asked her why. She just said she didn't know why, and honestly, after all that, I had no care or energy to try anymore, so I was not doing anything for the company. One day, my upline messaged me to ask what was going on. I told her I'm not really interested. Nobody wants to buy anything, and I don't feel comfortable pushing people. And she told me if any of your family or friends don't want to support you, you should just block and delete them off of your social media. This crossed the line for me because my family and friends are way more important to me than this BS company. I told her off and I blocked her. Thank goodness I never did auto shipments or got far enough to have to pay for an e-suite. I believe that the term e-suite is in reference to like the It Works back office or custom website or something. It's an It Works specific term. But man, that experience made me hate MLM companies completely. The last story has to do with a company called Lovewinks. I haven't actually seen this company talked about in the anti-MLM content much. I think Aaron Bees was a Lovewinks consultant. I could be wrong. I will double check. Please hold. Yeah, Erin Bees was a Love Wings consultant. So I'll have Erin's channel linked down below. I don't know if she has any videos on that company specifically, but she would be a good one to reach out to. Ask her if she'd be willing to make a video about her experience. But for context, it's a sex toy, accessories for the bedroom, etc. kind of company. Well, it was this girl I hardly knew in high school that messaged me one day and asked if I'd be interested in her company. This was after my experience with It Works, so thankfully I knew full well what was about to happen if I let her explain. So I very politely said no. She comes back at me with message after message about how she can't believe someone she helped so much in high school and was there for wouldn't support her after all she did for me, blah, blah, blah. I was never friends with this girl. At most, we spoke a couple words over 4 years, which just further proves how delusional these people are. We went back and forth, which looking back, I wish I didn't do because people like that are relentless and don't deserve the time of day. However, it ended in blocking one another. A few days later, she messaged me from her personal account to apologize for how she acted. I never responded, but now I'm very wary of that stuff, and I do have a lot of friends and family in MLMs. However, I try to avoid it at all costs because I would hate to let it ruin a friendship or a relationship with a family member. I do think that is a good, sensitive way to go about it. When you have loved ones that are in MLMs, I always do kind of recommend that you let it be. You not poke the bear, you not try to get them out, you not try to convince them of anything. Just love them, be there for them, and if the day comes where they do want to leave their MLM, you can be there as their support system. I appreciate all you do and how you bring so much awareness to it because truly MLMs are very popular these days and very predatory. I hope more people who are currently involved in one find your content and they see the light. You didn't like that very much? I'm basically eating your tail. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't want me to eat your tail, you gotta get it out of my mouth, okay? P.S. I'm going to go ahead and attach some pictures of some of the cringy messages that I sent. All of these were pre-written for me by my upline, just for a little laugh. This particular picture is a little small and a little blurry, but I think it says, "Is there anyone on here who's ready to grow their hair out like super fast? Maybe you chopped it off for summer and decided you officially hate it, lol." My friend Mackenzie is looking for 5 ladies to do a 12-week mermaid hair challenge at her cost. Just tell her what number you want and she can help get you there. And then it has a person with really long hair and like a number system, like choose your number and I'll help you get hair that long or something. Oh, that's good. This is a message you sent that said, "Hey, pretty lady, how are you?" That's a good one. Hey, pretty lady. I was just messaging to see if you are still interested in the hair growth challenge. Oh my gosh, those are good. Thank you for including those. This story says, "Hi Hannah, I recently came across your channel at an ideal time because I'm currently transitioning out of an MLM company that I've been a part of for almost 3 years. Here's my story." This makes me unbelievably happy already. My parents are Caribbean and they passed down my naturally curly hair, which I love. I've always been pretty active on social media, and in doing so, I share a lot about my hair journey and normally recommend products to other people who can relate to me. An old friend of mine, who we can call Bella for privacy reasons, noticed this on my Instagram and invited me to a free curly hair event. I swear to God, if that turns out to be a Monet pitch, I might lose it. I found this cool since a lot of curly hair events in my city are normally priced at $30 to $50, since they included goodie bags and hair consultations. Surprisingly, this event went really well and no particular brands were pushed on me, just a lot of freebies. Okay, love that. Bella eventually messaged me a few weeks later asking if I wanted to sign up for this new vegan hair care company named, you guessed it, Monate. I can't remember exactly how she pitched it, as this was the start of the pandemic, but since she was my friend, I felt comfortable being honest and telling her I wasn't okay with creating a membership for anything that I haven't even tried yet. She understood and she said she'll mail me some free samples anyway so that I can try them and let her know if I wanted to give it a shot. Bella was messaging me every 2 days to confirm if I received the samples, which I found kind of strange considering that I told her I would let her know as soon as I got the box. But now that I think about it, this is probably because it was close to the end of the month and she wanted to close a sale with me prior to the month ending. That's probably exactly what it was, yeah. Anyway, at the time, I just thought she was really excited to hear my feedback on the samples. I tried everything out and I was shocked at how much I liked the shampoo and leave-in conditioner. It smelled great in my opinion and it was very concentrated. I honestly didn't want to like it because I didn't want to spend a lot of money, but also didn't want to lie since I genuinely liked the samples, and ended up messaging Bella to ask her about how I can get my hands on a full-size version. Bella called me not too long after I gave my feedback and explained that if I really loved the products, I could actually get them at a discount if I became a market partner. Surprise, surprise. I told her, how could I possibly become a sales rep for a company that I haven't even been a customer for yet? Logical question, very logical question that I'm assuming didn't have a logical answer. After going back and forth, I agreed to sign up as a VIP, mainly to support her business. Let's talk about the fact that I had to pay an enrollment fee, spend a minimum of $84 on product, and commit to 2 future orders of $84 or more that apparently aren't auto shipments, but are flex ships, which are pre-scheduled and still go out if you forget to change the date on it. I was annoyed, but I figured once I got those 2 flex ships out of the way, I can get out of the VIP program and still feel as if I supported my friend. As a VIP customer, I promoted Bella's Instagram often whenever I would style my hair or use a different Monat product so that she could get promo and possibly new customers from my page. Less than a month later, Bella said that since I did such a great job promoting Monat already, that I would be a perfect fit for her team. I was against upgrading my account to market partner at first because I didn't know much about the company, and also I just had so many questions. What was the compensation plan? What were the benefits? Did I also have to recruit people, or could I just sell the products? I didn't even know what an MLM was. All I knew was that Bella was social selling, as she called it. Bella answered all these questions for me and also had her upline give me a call to clarify things for me. To be honest, the answers were all pretty vague, but I also felt I had nothing to lose since I genuinely liked the products, and even if I only made a couple bucks, at least I wouldn't be selling something that I didn't personally use myself. Boy, was I in for a shocker. Buckle up! Once I upgraded my account to market partner, I was added to a Facebook group with Zoom recorded trainings and a couple of group chats on WhatsApp. One with Bella's uplines and their team members, and another with Bella's direct team. Just me. LOL. I didn't know that I was her very first salesperson recruit, but everyone starts somewhere, so I didn't judge. They all welcomed me in the chat and shouted me out on Instagram. I thought the recognition was nice. There were training calls going on every day, basically, and the links were sent in the chat. Bella encouraged me to attend every single one as I was new and needed as much information as I could get. Some of these Zoom calls took place during my regular work hours or were happening back to back, so I would choose the ones that stood out to me. It didn't take long for Bella to mention to me that if I wanted to move up in the company, I needed to take these calls more seriously and try to join even if I was at work or if they took place back to back. So what happened to fitting this business into the pockets of your day? What happened to time freedom? What happened to working your business when you can? Those are all huge things that people say you can do in an MLM, but then it becomes apparent pretty quickly that you're expected to be constantly participating in all kinds of different things, whether that's group chats or Zoom calls or trainings, and it takes up a lot of your life. Quickly, I learned that no matter how many customers I recruited, I wouldn't see any rank advancements until I recruited at least 2 people to join the company as sales reps. When I spoke to my close family and friends about this and my hesitations, 4 of them willingly signed up under me without any pitch as their way of supporting me. This got me really pumped since I saw a few bonuses in my account. Bella was also pretty happy. This helped her rank up. At this point, everything still seemed fine, and I was confident I'll stick around to see how far I could move up in the company. This right here is a very, very important thing to acknowledge, because what you're describing here is exactly what I always say about how buying your friends' products or signing up under them just to be nice, just to support them, is the worst thing you could do to support them. Of course, a lot of people don't know that, they don't understand that, that's not their fault. That's why I'm here doing what I'm doing to hopefully spread the word. But when your loved one is in a business model designed for less than 1% of people to actually be successful, they're already set up for failure. The odds are stacked against them. So if your loved one joins and then you participate, you place an order, you join their team because you think you're just being nice and supporting them, that gives that loved one this false sense of hope that, wait a minute, I could really do this. You get the bonuses in your account. You get that little sense of hope that you really could make it work. But those people close to you that supported you up front probably don't have any intention of repeatedly ordering from you or running the business themselves. I don't know how this ends. But the point I really want to get across is that even if you think you are supporting a loved one by buying their products or by joining their team under them, you are only giving them a false sense of hope that they can make it work when statistically all of the other odds are stacked against them. It is very, very unlikely that they will see success success in the future out of this. And by you supporting them now, you are prolonging that realization for them. It's a really tricky concept that I feel like a lot of people can't really wrap their heads around. And just because I'm sitting here and I'm reading an email titled MLM Horror Story, I can only assume that this doesn't end well for you. So thank you for bringing that up and for acknowledging how the good intentions of your family members maybe set you up for a little bit harder of a fall later on. My first major red flag was when it was end of the month, a very busy time for sales reps going for certain ranks, and I was about 100 PV away from re-ranking, which is about $100. But at this time, I didn't know that people spent their own money to re-rank or place sales for other people under each other against company policy. Thank you for bringing this up. I just posted a video today about a bunch of reasons why Monate is tanking right now, and one of them is this exact thing. It's the rank buying. It's the unethical, against company compliance behaviors that have recently been exposed about how people in Monate are cheating the system and buying their own ranks. Bella's upline messaged me stating that if I didn't have one family member willing to spend $100 on me, then clearly they aren't family. I was pissed. I called Bella and told her that her upline doesn't know what situations my family members were in financially. $100 may be nothing to some, but for us, it's a big deal. She understood completely and agreed that it was an inappropriate comment to make. Red flag number 2 was when I would have goal-setting meetings with Bella. She would try to push me to have high ranks as my goal, even though I was very open that this was simply a side hustle to me. All I wanted was a discount on hair products and the option to make commission if anyone purchased from me, kind of like how influencers use affiliate codes. All of those higher ranks she pushed me toward were always conveniently aligned with her higher ranking goals as well. Funny how that works, because everyone's stacked on top of each other. In order for her to hit certain ranks, someone under her also needed to be at a specific rank. This annoyed me because I didn't care for ranks. I just wanted to make honest recommendations to people who wanted to try out the products. My final straw was about a year after becoming a market partner. I was struggling a lot with my mental health and had undiagnosed anxiety. I wanted to take a step back from selling the products because I felt like I was constantly being watched online. I felt judged as if I didn't post enough about sales. If I went out and had fun with friends but didn't join a training call, I was reprimanded by my uplines. I basically felt like being a part of an MLM meant that I had to hold my social media to a certain standard, and this didn't help with the mental health issues I was having. When I spoke about this to Bella, she seemed to understand, but she still occasionally would message me every 2 to 3 weeks to check in and see if I wanted to make a purchase or knew anyone who wanted to sign up. The whole point of me stepping back was to separate myself from one of the triggers of my anxiety. I told her I didn't want to associate myself publicly with this company anymore, but I'll keep my account open for whenever I wanted to restock on products. Fast forward to now, Bella told me she was quitting Monate with no explanation. I assume she also felt the way I did, as her upline pressured her a lot to stay at certain ranks so that she wouldn't lose her benefits. Bella's upline was at the rank where you earn your Cadillac. So that means that Bella's upline is depending on everyone below her to hit their ranks so that she can get her car allowance every month. I am closing my account this month, but I have so many VIP customers who actually buy products often but don't know how to navigate the website. I feel bad closing my account and leaving them to figure it out themselves. For the next few days, I'll reach out to them about how to terminate their membership and stay on top of the orders so that they don't get charged should they choose to stay with the company. All in all, my regret is not doing enough research on MLM companies prior to signing up. The products weren't the issue for me. The issue was inconsiderate uplines who would literally guilt their downlines into spending their own money for them to rank up, crappy compensation plans, and the fact that it's almost impossible to make it to the top ranks. But hey, at least I made my money back that I invested. Thank you, Hannah, for listening and providing your audience with such valuable information. I feel like your experience reflects the experience of a lot of people that get involved with MLMs. They really do like the products. They really do see value in them. And so they join under the impression that they're able to do exactly what you described. Join, get a discount, make a little bit of money if someone else buys something occasionally. And you know what? That entire scenario is completely fine, but that's not what an MLM is. The component that makes an MLM is the ranks, is the recruiting, is the heavy emphasis on doing those things because that's where the money lies. It's not as simple as just selling products and making a commission. And unfortunately, I do think a lot of people join MLMs under the impression that they can just kind of sit back, use the products, make a commission here and there. And then they're kind of slapped in the face with this reality that like, wait a minute, this is a big organization. There's teams, there's group chats, there's training calls, there's all these expectations. I feel like I'm being monitored. It's all this extra baggage that people don't consider before they join because they don't realize that that's a component. So thank you for this story and thank you for exposing that part of it. This story says, Dear Hannah, my name is Peter. During college, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. I needed to take chemotherapy for 6 months at a hospital 10 hours away from my school and friends. During this time, I saw very little of my friends. After my last chemo treatment, I learned that my girlfriend of 2 years had been cheating on me with my roommate and she broke up with me. That's a lot of really intense things going on at one time. Oh my goodness. This crushed me, so when a friend of mine told me he was coming down from school for a visit, I was obviously excited. When he arrived, he suggested that we go to a bar because he had something he wanted to show me. This was a little weird, but I didn't think too much of it. We went to a local Irish pub and sat at the end of the bar. There was an older man sitting next to me and my friend sat at the very end. After we ordered, he took out his laptop and put it on the bar and loaded a PowerPoint. Starting to get weirder. He began by talking about how we both liked vacations. This was funny since both of us were broke because of college and didn't have time to go on vacation, even if we could afford it. He continued anyway, talking about a business which made vacations more affordable called World Ventures. As he kept presenting, I became more and more confused about what exactly this company did or how any of it worked. It started as a subscription service to save money on vacations. It then turned into an opportunity to not only save money, but to make money. If I was able to recruit more people, I think 10, then I would no longer be charged the subscription fee of $100 per month. If each of those people recruited more people, then the company would start paying me. I was even shown a little slide of some person on Facebook showing off the company paid car. You're doing a great job of articulating how confusing and weird this must have been. You think that you're just going out for a drink at a bar with a friend and all of a sudden you're in a PowerPoint presentation being given all this information you did not ask for. That's gotta be so strange. He also further explained how I needed to have 5 people on my blue team and 5 people on my red team, and how the pro strategy was to keep all your people on one team instead of doing the sensible thing and placing people evenly so you weren't being charged a boatload of money each month. What the heck? What is going on? At the end of the presentation, my friend handed me an application form and asked me if I was ready to change my life. I looked to the older man sitting next to me. He was vigorously shaking his head no. That's so good. Oh, that's so good. Oh, please protect that man at all costs. The man at the bar giving you the signals that this is a scam. I politely declined, but thanked my friend for hanging out with me. He said he really appreciated me being polite because he had made the same pitch to some mutual friends of ours and they laughed at him and told him he was in a Ponzi scheme. I mean, they're not wrong. I didn't want to hurt my friend's feelings because he was clearly excited about this idea, but I feel bad that I didn't voice my concern. I still keep in touch with this friend and I don't think he's still part of the company because he does actually seem to be doing well for himself. During this point in my life, I didn't really know what an MLM was, but I had heard about pyramid schemes, and I felt suspicious about the wild claims that my friend was making. But there was another strong part of me that desperately wanted to make more money so I could help my family pay for the chemotherapy costs. I was at an extremely vulnerable place in my life, and I felt like I was being a burden on my family. This almost seemed like a good opportunity to change that, but I'm so thankful that I thought about it more clearly. I am currently in year 7 of being cancer-free. That is wonderful news. I'm so happy to hear that. So your story does kind of have a hint of being in that vulnerable position that had the potential to be preyed upon for an MLM. Thank goodness it didn't work. I like to think that the man at the bar had something to do with it, but this is a great example of listening to your intuition, recognizing those red flags in the moment, and staying far away. Thank you so much for sending this in, and congratulations on being cancer-free. This story says, Hello Hannah, I've recently been binging on your channel as I'm studying for my USMLE, a big medical school test. And I've been shocked, entertained, and disgusted by many of the stories sent in. One of the stories that you featured in one of your videos triggered a memory I've repressed in my reptilian brain. I've completely forgotten about it. I thought I didn't have an MLM story to share, but I thought wrong. So back in my undergrad days at the University of Florida, I was an ambitious pre-med student and I was just beginning to get out there in the big wide world, but I thought I was a little more savvy than the average bright-eyed freshman. I thought I would never be conned into an MLM. After a 7:30 a.m. Chem 1 lecture, a student came in and asked if she could hand out some flyers and give a short presentation with the professor's permission. As the flyers passed around, the girl was hyping us up and telling us about Southwestern Advantage, a great company that she was a part of, and it was our chance to earn thousands of dollars in just one summer. She also said that it would look great on transcripts, and that's what sold me. Pre-med is hard and competitive. You had to do the absolute most to stand out. So I glanced at the flyer, noted down where and when the interview was, and went for it. I went with 10 other students to be interviewed by a guy. Let's call him Ryan, since I don't, nor care to, remember his name. Spoiler alert, he was a jerk. So it seemed legit. He interviewed us and said if he liked our CV, etc., he would contact us for a second interview. I sort of listened to the logistics and whatever of the company, but Ryan was vague about what exactly I was to do as a part of the company. I also didn't really care to be the top seller or whatever. I just wanted something good to put on my CV. Some educational books, sure, why not? I've sold some chocolate bars during middle school for choir fundraisers, so I can do this too. I was granted a second interview and I was pretty excited. Excited enough to post on Facebook. Usually people regret posting personal stuff on Facebook, but in my case, I'm so thankful I did. An acquaintance reached out to me and warned me about the company. He didn't say explicitly that it was an MLM, but he did state that it was not something that I would expect it to be, and that the company would not write me a letter of recommendation unless I sold a ludicrous amount of books. Suspicious now, I researched the company deeper and was more perturbed the more I learned. I would have to sleep in a stranger's home, and not only that, I had to find them myself and ask? Nah. I was completely turned off, but the interview was the next day. I decided to go and decline Ryan face to face since I already had the first interview and I wanted to be polite. On the day of the interview, I learned that my grandmother had died and that I had to take summer credits because certain classes were only given during certain semesters to fulfill UF summer credit requirements. Cool, now I had legitimate excuses. Ryan would be gracious about me declining the offer, right? Wrong. I told Ryan that I had to respectfully decline because of the reasons given above, and as I was telling him, the fact that my grandmother passed hit me and I teared up. Ryan gave me half a minute of false pity before saying that before he went on his Southwestern Advantage internship, his grandmother had passed too. But he was going to make her proud by being successful, so he toughened up and continued with his internship. I would put $100 on the fact that that story is not true. He took 30 seconds to concoct a fake story in his head to try and convince you to stay in the internship. That's what I believe. Then he continued to try to pressure me into joining. The absolute audacity of this cretin. Tears never dried up so fast in my life. Just as a side note, I'm the eldest of 17 cousins raised in a household of guys and in a field mostly dominated by men. He didn't know what was coming. I stood up and pointed right at Ryan's face and told him how dare he tell me that on the very day my grandmother passed. He had no compassion or empathy. He only saw me as a stupid little pawn, but guess what? This pawn is done having her time wasted. I didn't believe for a minute that his grandmother was dead. Yes, that's what I'm saying. And if she was probably rolling in her grave so fast that her centripetal acceleration would reach the speed of light. Then I grabbed my CV, gave him the finger, and marched right on out with my head held high. To the other applicants outside, I told them in no uncertain terms that this company was a scam and that the entire endeavor was unsafe, and we all left together. Thank you for reading this story, Hannah. I appreciate you giving people like me a platform to get some of this stuff off their chest and listening to us. To the other ladies out there, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. So what if you come off kind of curt or bitchy? You'll most likely never see these con men again. They'll move on to an easier victim and you'll save yourself a lot of headache. As for me, I'm going to have a drink and lie down. My blood pressure is up just remembering this entire ordeal. Thanks for reading from a future doctor. I mean, I love that conclusion. Knowing that you're being scammed, standing up for yourself, taking all the interviewees with you, leaving this guy in the dust. I love it. I support it. Additionally, I also appreciate that you think that that story was fake. That's a very satisfying conclusion to this story. Way to go. I'm so proud of you for that. And with that, my friends, that's all the stories that I have for you for this video. Don't worry, I will be back very soon with another one of these. Lord knows I have enough emails to get through. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I will see you in my next one real soon.